Your cat looks at you every single day and clearly notices that you are enormous, hairless, walking around on two legs, and behaving nothing like a cat. So on some level, your cat absolutely knows you are not another cat. But here's where it gets kind of strange. And when researchers actually study how cats interact with the humans they live with, something unexpected shows up. A lot of those interactions look remarkably similar to the ones cats use with other cats they are close to. Which raises a pretty interesting question. If your cat is not treating you like simply a human, what exactly are you to them? Because the answer is hiding inside behaviors you already see constantly. The rubbing, the kneading, the meowing, the way they trail after you from room to room like a tiny judgmental shadow. Let's start unpacking what that actually means. Think about the tail up greeting your cat gives you when you walk in the door. Think about the head bunts, the way they rub their whole body along your leg, the way they sit pressed right up against you instead of 3 feet away. A lot of people assume these are things cats invented specifically for humans, almost like a translation layer built just for us. But that is not quite right. These behaviors overlap heavily with the ones cats use toward other cats they consider socially familiar. Friendly, low-tension relationships between cats often include these exact signals: rubbing, sitting close, grooming. Now, that does not mean your cat literally believes you are a cat. Cats are not confused about your size, your smell, or the fact that you open cans with your weird hairless paws. What it does mean is that socially, in terms of behavior, you may occupy a surprisingly cat-shaped slot in their mind. Grooming is a good example of this. When a cat licks another cat it trusts, that is not random. It tends to happen between individuals with a comfortable, low-conflict relationship. So when your cat licks your hand, your hair, or your arm, it is drawing on that same social toolkit. Even though it fully understands you are not covered in fur and cannot lick yourself clean the same way. The same goes for sleeping pressed against you instead of somewhere else entirely available in the house. Proximity, during a vulnerable state like sleep, is not something cats offer to just anyone. It tends to be reserved for individuals they feel comfortable around. You are not just the being who fills the food bowl on a schedule. You are inside the circle. Yeah, actually inside it. And one especially bizarre habit makes that circle even more obvious. Ever had your cat proudly drop a dead bug, a toy mouse, or something far worse right at your feet? Most people read this as a gift, a little offering. Look what I brought you. It is a sweet story. It is also probably not the full picture. Researchers who study prey delivery point to a mix of explanations tied to hunting behavior, handling prey in a safe space, and in some cases patterns that resemble how mother cats bring prey back for kittens, which creates a pretty hilarious interpretation. From your cat's point of view, you might look like the world's least competent hunter. You vanish for hours at a time. You come back carrying bags. And yet, mysteriously, you have never once caught anything. So maybe, just maybe, your cat is helping out, bringing you practice targets, trying to get you up to speed. It is only an interpretation, not a proven fact. But it is a fun one because that same pattern, bringing prey back to a safe space, does echo something mother cats sometimes do with kittens. Your cat is an adult, obviously. It does not need lessons from you. But the instinct to bring prey somewhere safe, somewhere with a trusted companion, does not necessarily care whether that companion's a cat or a person. It is a small, slightly gross reminder that even the behaviors that seem the most random start making sense, once you look at them through feline logic instead of human logic. But hunting instincts are not the strongest clue here. The strongest clue shows up when your cat actually changes its behavior specifically because of you. Here's a question worth sitting with for a second. Why does your cat meow at you constantly, but almost never meows at other adult cats the same way? Adult cats tend to rely heavily on body language and scent when they communicate with each other. Meowing between two adult cats happens, but it is generally not the main channel. But meowing at humans, that is a completely different story. Cats seem to pick up over time, which sounds actually get such a reaction out of you. One meow gets breakfast moving, another gets the door opened. A tiny chirp makes you glance over immediately, and then there is the dramatic, wounded-sounding scream that apparently means starvation, even though dinner happened 20 minutes ago. This is not your cat learning human as some universal language. This is your cat learning you specifically. Many owners can pick their own cat's meows apart from any other cats, because those sounds were shaped through thousands of tiny repeated interactions between the two of them. So maybe your cat has not learned to speak human. Maybe the two of you built a small private language completely by accident. Quick thought before we go further. Did your cat have a specific sound or a weird little gesture that only you seem to understand? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear the strange ones, because communication tells us your cat recognizes you as important, but what your cat does when it feels vulnerable tells us something even deeper. Let's talk about scent for a moment, because this is where things shift from amusing to genuinely intimate. Cats experience the world through smell in a way that is honestly hard for us to fully imagine. Scent is not decoration for them, it is information. It tells them what is familiar, what is safe, and what belongs in their space. So when your cat rubs against your leg, or curls into the blanket that smells like you, that is not really about claiming you the way the internet loves to joke about. It is closer to something else. Their bed smells familiar. Their favorite corner of the couch smells familiar. Their whole territory is basically a map built out of familiar smells. And so are you. That is part of why a cat might sniff you carefully, almost suspiciously, after you have been somewhere new. You are carrying unfamiliar information on you, and your cat is checking whether the version of you that just walked in still matches the familiar one. Routine matters too. The same footsteps, the same voice, the same chair. All of it becomes part of a predictable pattern your cat quietly relies on. Your face may matter here too, of course, but it is really only one part of the picture. Your scent, your voice, your movements, your routines. Together they build something closer to a full signature, a familiar, multi-sensory version of you that your cat has learned by heart. Which brings us to a reframe worth sitting with. You are not simply inside your cat's home. On a sensory level and a social one, you are part of what actually makes that home feel like home. And when researchers look closely at what happens when that familiar person disappears, even briefly, they found what might be the biggest clue of all. This is where attachment comes in, and I want to be careful with this one, because it gets thrown around loosely online. Researchers studying cat and human bonds have used a method similar to something originally developed to study attachment between infants and caregivers. The basic idea, put simply, is watching how a cat behaves when its person is present, when that person briefly leaves, and when they return. Studies using this approach have found that a meaningful number of cats show patterns that resemble secure attachment, not panic, not indifference either. Something closer to using their person as a kind of safe base. Translated out of research language, that basically means this. A caregiver is not only valuable because they hand out food. Their presence itself can be associated with a sense of safety, which pushes back on the old stereotype of the completely independent, emotionally detached cat who barely notices you exist. Because security does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like your cat relaxing nearby while you work. Sometimes it looks like them exploring a new space more confidently because you're in the room. Sometimes it is just them checking where you are, then going right back to whatever they were doing because everything feels normal. Some of this research has drawn comparisons to patterns observed in human infants and in dogs. That comparison is worth treating carefully, and it is exactly the kind of claim you should feel free to look into yourself. But at a minimum, it pushes back on the old idea that cats are simply too independent to form real attachment bonds. They are not dogs. They rarely show it with the same obvious enthusiasm. There is no frantic tail wagging at the door. But the behavior does suggest that cats may rely on their caregivers for security in ways that are more familiar than we once assumed. Familiar? In a very human sense. So, let's go back to where we started. At the beginning, we asked whether your cat sees you as some strange, oversized member of its social world. That description turns out to be incomplete. It was never really just about hunting instincts or a scent or a handful of learned sounds taken on their own. Because this was never really about which category your cat mentally files you under. It is about the role you have earned, one repeated moment at a time. Your cat knows you are not another cat. And it definitely does not understand human the way we understand that word. Instead, your importance was built slowly out of thousands of small repeated experiences. Your smell, your voice, your footsteps down the hallway, the spot where you always sit, the routines you repeat without even noticing, the strange little signals that only the two of you actually understand. You're not simply the one who provides food, not simply the giant creature sharing their territory, not even simply another member of the social group. You are familiar. You are trusted. You are safe. And in the strange, scent-filled, endlessly perceptive world your cat lives in, that might be the closest thing they have to a word for home.